Welcome to Cardio for the Cortex, Stamina, Strategy, and Study Gains. Topics we'll cover today are the scientific method and importance of failure, critical thinking and problem solving, collaboration and teamwork, why you should be reading, and organizations and clubs on campus. Let's start with the scientific method. The first step of the scientific method is to observe something and ask a question about it. The second step is to identify the research topic area and then formulate a hypothesis. So, why do you think this thing is happening? Or what do you think the answer to the question is? The next thing is to test with an experiment and then analyze the data and report conclusions. This is something that as a STEM student, you're going to be expected to use all the time in lab work and in other areas of science. But it's also something you can use in your life, especially when you're learning how to study for different classes. So, what happens when this experiment fails? Any experiment. You go back to the beginning, change your hypothesis, and start again. So, when you reach a setback in coursework, you can use the scientific method to reach your academic goals. So, if the method you used to study for a chemistry exam didn't work, then you need to go back to the beginning and figure out where you went wrong and where you can make changes for next time. Now, you should, of course, be asking people, your professors, your advisors, success coaches, other classmates, and maybe tutors how you could do better. And then you can kind of reformulate your hypothesis based on what they tell you. Next topic, critical thinking and problem solving. Critical thinking is when you analyze the world around you based on your observations, and it's really important to gain this skill to solve problems effectively. This is also a huge part of the scientific method. Critical thinking helps you formulate good hypotheses. And so, if you have faced that academic setback that I talked about earlier, use some critical thinking skills to figure out how to make changes in the future. Next, collaboration and teamwork. In a lot of your classes, especially those discussion sections of bio and chem, you're going to be asked to work in groups and teams. You might find this frustrating. But if you take it seriously, you will learn that groups are much better at solving complex problems than individuals. That is, when everyone contributes. So be a good team player and it will make you a much better scientist. But this means that when there are people in your group that are quiet, and maybe that person is you, it's important to ask that person to contribute, even if that person thinks that they might not have anything useful to say, because groups are most effective when everyone contributes roughly the same amount. Now, reading. Why should you read? A couple of good reasons. First of all, it helps you learn the skill of disciplined focus. You can read anything you want in order to help learn this skill as well as kind of help your problem solving and critical thinking. Uh, but it's really helpful to read something that you genuinely like because then you don't want to break your focus. You want to be disciplined and keep going. So you can read fiction to even help better understand the world around you and the perspectives of others. So, in other words, this is a very good way to develop better critical thinking skills. But you can also engage in a practice of daily scientific reading or weekly scientific reading. Maybe you spend an hour every Saturday reading articles from Science or Nature, which are two science periodicals that we subscribe to at UMBC, so you can access them for free through the library system. But they're not really dense like a lot of scientific articles are, so you can kind of get a sense for what's going on in scientific research without necessarily needing to know how to read a research paper. Or you can practice reading research papers and eventually you're going to get really good at reading them. Next topic, campus clubs and organizations. We have academic or professional campus clubs, like advising offices for different disciplines, or we have like the Pre-Med Society or the STEM PhD Society. We have social clubs and organizations. That might mean something that allows you to sit around and craft with others and be social. That might be part of a hobby, but also, something that allows you to be social. We have cultural organizations that often fall under this social category as well. And then we have sports and hobbies, and this is also where the crafting club could come into play. But then we have sports things like intramural sports, rock climbing club, that kind of thing. So, a variety of clubs and organizations can be useful to you, whether that's professionally or personally. So, if you think about an academic or professional one, that the professional part of that might be really obvious, but you might also meet some friends to form a study group in those. So, both personal and professional perks can come out of all of these types of clubs. And the same thing is true in social or sports and hobbies clubs. So obviously, those could be fun personally, and you could find people that have a similar cultural background or a similar hobby to you, but you can also do some networking in those clubs. So, the summary of this video is that there are a lot of elements that go into being a good STEM student and a good future professional. If you start considering them now, they'll serve you well in the future. So, thank you for watching. If you have questions, you can send us an email at cnmsadvising@umbc.edu, or you can check us out on Instagram at cnmsadvising.